have a good time, put a smile on your face, yeah, can be Cam and Elation Radio. Even brighten your day and help you through the night. Bringing you good music, can be Cam and Elation Radio. And here's your host, Kim and Kim.
Lady Michelle Austin. I know what you've been through. Don't think that it's only you. Only you. Yeah. Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out loud. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out your mouth. Hey, speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. I know that you're in pain. You gotta love yourself enough to make the change. Yeah. Your atmosphere, yeah, and take away the power of your fear. Pick your head up, get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up, get up. Take back your life and come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out loud. Speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Out your mouth. Hey, speak your peace. Come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace.
Hello, Thriver Nation. Hey, how's everybody doing? I am so happy to be here. Woo, hand claps. I love it. I love it. I love it. So happy to be with you all again. I love the hand claps we get. I love, love, love. I cannot wait for you all to hear this show this evening. I got something real special for y'all tonight. But here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to give you a few things. Listen, y'all already know what you're listening to. You're listening to Speak Your Peace with Lady Michelle, and I am your host, Lady Michelle. And I just want to welcome you all to our virtual safe zone. This is a safe space for you to come to listen to some things that we talk about concerning trauma. We do things around domestic violence. We always have you in mind when we talk on this show. We designed this show for you guys to give you the education of this domestic violence, to give you education of toxic relationships and the different forms of trauma, self-love, how to find your voice, all of those different things. We love to educate everyone, to inspire you, to empower you, right? But I always got to give my disclaimer. Always. This may be your first time listening to us, so I'm going to give it again. Our disclaimer is, all of the content on this podcast is intended for general information purposes only, and it is not intended to, or implied, if you will, to be a substitute for professional mental health or any kind of trauma advice or any kind of therapy sessions. You must never, ever, 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 ever disregard or delay seeking professional treatment based upon any content that you hear on this podcast. All right? Now, if you have a situation going on, I want you to promptly consult your physician or call 911 if you believe that you have a medical emergency, right? Y'all going to promise me y'all do that, right? Okay, that's what we want to hear. So I just want to get started tonight. Basically, this during the past 2 years of this pandemic, really saying many of us have felt, very thoughtful about our lives, the different things that have happened, and what's really meaningful and important to us. And if you're like me and my guest today, you also have probably been thinking about, some ways to create a more fulfilling life, especially in those areas where you, feel your greatest your satisfaction. You want to be brought your greatest satisfaction. And so one of my goals right here on this podcast is to help my listeners to create and to live a more integrated and deeply satisfying life as a whole person. This is why we're here. This is why we're here. This is why we have this podcast. We want to make sure that you're living to your best as a whole person. And so that we always talk about, trauma on this platform, and especially the first Sunday of every month. Woo, woo, woo. That's what we're here for tonight, is the first Sunday of June. And so we always talk about trauma, but I want to make sure that we're always sharing tips and techniques with you guys, so that you're living a balanced life. I don't want you to think that, you're only living through trauma, but that you're living a balanced life. So we always want to make sure that we're giving you some things, right? And we know that those things can be difficult to live through with the trauma that we've been going through. There's been a lot of shootings in the different states, and especially we're based out of Philadelphia. And so, there's been a lot of shootings and just in other states as well. We've had some traumatic things that have happened over the past few weeks alone that I'm not going to get into that tonight, but some things and it has left some trauma. And so that's why we want to help you guys tonight. But here's the thing. The episode today, I am super excited about it because I get to share the mic tonight with an amazing woman who's going to help us to navigate through some of that trauma that affects our children when it comes to divorce. I don't think we really think enough about the children when they're dealing with the divorce, because we're so tuned into what the two adults are dealing with. And so we want to talk about our babies today. We want to talk about what they experience and what some techniques and some strategies and some things that we can do to help them along the way, so that we bring overall satisfaction to all parties involved. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And, I'm going to introduce her again because this may be your first time listening to us, so you may not have heard when she was here the other first Sundays. And she is Dr. Susan Lorraine. I love her so much. She brings a plethora of knowledge to us. She is a practitioner. She's a psychologist of over 33 years, and her practice is Christian-based. So we love that. We love that about her, that it's Christian-based, and her specialty is trauma. I'm not going to talk anymore. We're here today. We're going to do all things trauma today. Dr. Lorraine, are you here?
I am. Hello. Hello, Michelle. Thank you for having me. And I want to thank all the guests that are there now. I'm excited because it gives me a chance, by the grace of God, to do my very best to help anyone out there that is seeking any type of information, any type of closures, knowledge, anything that they need, that they're seeking from their spirit. And I want you all to feel comfortable in interrupting me, asking questions. You don't have to give your name. You can make up a password that nobody would ever connect you with, and you can just simply speak your piece. You can ask questions. Tonight I am going to address, as Lady Michelle said, trauma of children going through divorce. And there are parts to this. Two of the main parts have a lot to do with the stages of our development through life, from infancy onward. And we're going to talk about people that are unfortunately going through divorce right now that need some type of help, and they need to know what they can do. So I'm going to touch gently and in general terms. This is very, very general. But if you have questions, please feel free to speak out and just interrupt me and ask me whatever you need to ask. But, you know, Lady Michelle, I just want to go back to you and just say, let's do a prayer. Let's start out with a prayer, because it is so important to make sure that our Lord is part of what we are doing. It is so critical to have him in our spirit and in our lives. So in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, amen. Everyone put your palms up to the heavens so that the Lord can bless you. His wounds are through his hands, through the crowns of his head, through his feet, his shoulders, his side. So we want to receive all his blessings tonight, his interventions, anything he needs to speak to our hearts. We want to receive that. So, Heavenly Father, we come before you in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. We ask you to cover all of us in your precious living blood. We ask you to anoint, bless, and protect all our hearts, our minds, our psyches, our spirits, that we receive the messages you want us to receive. And anyone that needs to speak out and may be afraid or shy for whatever reason, we ask you, Father, to give them the strength, the courage, and the grace. Let them feel your peace, your spirit moving through them, so that they know they are safe. And you are safe to speak during this podcast. You are very safe. My oaths as a psychologist, confidentiality, ethics. In my 33 years of practice, I've never had a claim, because everything's been given to the Lord. Everything's been surrendered to him, and I hear his word for every patient, and I follow his decree to the letter. So know that you are very safe. You have a lovely host. I know Michelle. I've known her a long time. This woman has a beautiful spirit, a warm, loving heart, and she wants the best for everyone she can possibly touch. So I give this all to Jesus. I thank all of you for being here, taking the time out. And again, please do not hesitate to ask any question you may need to ask. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lorraine. We do appreciate everything that you do, everything that you bring to us every first Sunday of the month. Again, we are All Things Trauma on the first Sunday. So to all of my listeners, you know that you can always, many of you have the ways to get in touch with me. You can always send questions, and we will make sure that those questions are filtered out to our Dr. Lorraine, and that we will get that to her, and she'll be able to get answers to you. So for that. So we want to really get into this, because thank you. So we want to talk about this, and I thought that this was great to talk about, because we are coming up on Father's Day, and so one of the things that we are going to talk about tonight, of course, is going to be the parent alienation, but we're going to get into that a little later. But I thought, because, and please don't anybody be upset with me, I understand that sometimes the mother is the one who is not doing what she's supposed to be doing. I understand that. But for the most part, we're going to talk about, because it's Father's Day coming up this month, and I know a lot of fathers are alienated because of when divorce happens. But let's talk about our babies. Let's talk about the young people when divorce is happening and how it can affect them, how trauma can affect them from this. So I wanted to really get some insight from Dr. Lorraine on that, and we're going to just have a good old conversation tonight and help you all out. So you can go ahead and get started, Dr. Lorraine.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. The one thing I want to say first is, as far as divorce, trauma, and children are concerned, and I do want to touch on this parent alienation. This is really important. Two things I need to say before I go into any explanations is this. There is such a thing, parent alienation syndrome. It is considered a diagnosis when diagnosed under a clinical psychologist. It's generally done for court purposes, depending on the circumstances of a divorce and its processes. The stages of child development from prenatal on to adolescence, adulthood, affecting children of divorce, what goes on at each of those levels stays with children throughout their life into adulthood. There's a lot parents can do to help their children, but I'm going to connect how parents can speak to their children about divorce, and I'm going to connect that with the stages children go through in respect to parent alienation. In my years of practice, I have counseled couples. I have heard mothers alienating. I have heard fathers alienating. Why? Why is this happening? And here are the reasons. In our spirit, in our mind, our soul, our heart, we're all made up of all the same things. We're all created out of God's image. We're human beings. We do have a spiritual essence, God's Holy Spirit, that everyone has within them. Having said that, in the world as we know it, we're all thrown curves. We have days of joy. We have days of sadness. We have days of anger. We have days of defeat. Life is life. Emotions are emotions. All of the emotions that we experience, they matter, and they're very, very important. The key is learning how to understand what's happening and learning how to help yourself with those emotions. When we look at divorce and trauma with children, the trauma that children experience are absolutely, totally, and completely, it's beyond understanding. But I'm going to break it down for you. Children that are parents, let me go with the parents first. When a couple reaches a point where, for whatever reasons, they're going through a divorce, they're beginning to take steps, they are either, there's two different paths that couples walk. They either both know they're headed for divorce, or one or the other has a shock of finding out there will be a divorce. Tonight, that's not our topic. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because it has a lot to do with why and how parental alienation occurs. So when we look at a couple and we look at the idea of a couple beginning divorce proceedings, both individuals, regardless of who is divorcing who or why, there is a platform of emotions. Human beings as we are, we have a lot of different emotions going on. So the wife, the husband, they are all feeling their own individual set of emotions. The person being divorced may be feeling angry, isolated. If the husband is the one that's being divorced, he can go into a deep depression. The wife can go into a deep depression. My point is, the platform of emotions is a cycle of unending emotionality that can literally cripple and paralyze an individual to the point where they don't want to deal with the other parent, the other spouse. They don't want to deal with one another. And out of their anger, they may speak against the other parent. Whenever we are feeling all of these different emotions, the best thing that we can do for ourselves, first of all, seek professional help. No matter where you are, even if it's just a thought of divorce, go get professional help so that you are prepared, so that you can get in control of whatever the emotions are and understand what might be coming. And it's so important to be in control of your emotions because your children feel everything. If you have a really close friend that is dependable, reliable, responsible, a really close friend, preferably a couple if possible, that have a very strong marriage if possible, if you have that in your world, let the children spend some time with them and allow yourself, go to counseling, have some private time, get a journal, write out your feelings. When you are writing out what is inside, you're emptying yourself. You're allowing yourself to free yourself of the effects of what the trauma could do, as opposed to holding it all in and just bursting out at some point that will affect everyone around you. And granted, we are human beings. So, we do have these feelings and emotions. There are times we want to yell and scream. There are times we are angry. There are things that we need to say. And I don't want to minimize these emotions because they are extremely important and they do need to be looked at. They do need to be looked at in a very loving, peaceful way. But I do want to say this. God the Father is watching and listening. He knows our hearts. He knows our lives. He knows when we're doing right. He knows when we're not. He knows. I encourage everyone, no matter what trauma or life experience challenge you go through, always stop and say, I praise you, Jesus, because I know you're going to intervene for me, but you must continue to pray. It's not a one-day prayer you say and then expect a miracle. It's a constant, consistent prayer that you do, turning your life to Jesus and saying, you take over, Father, you take over. And I guarantee you, as we learn to control ourselves and get peace within ourselves and let God take over, you will be amazed. I've watched a lot of couples through counseling not get a divorce. I've helped a lot of couples not get a divorce because I've helped them with their emotions. Most of the time, divorce stems from one or other spouse getting distracted. There are many distractions in the world, and we, as humans, we're humans. Sometimes we react to them. So the one thing we want to remember, too, is forgiveness. No matter what another person is doing to us, just forgive them. Because when you speak forgiveness, things change. Things do change. I'm going to address and connect the divorce and trauma with children. I'm going to connect the stages. So I'm going to start from the beginning. There's a couple ready to divorce, and the wife is pregnant, and she's learning of divorce. One of the things that she needs to do, very importantly, the child inside can hear everything that's being said, everything. So I encourage the mother who is pregnant with child, separate herself from everyone, go in a quiet place, say some prayers, ask the Lord to help you, and start speaking to your baby. Tell your baby how much your baby is loved. Tell your baby this is not their fault. And tell their baby at some level their father does love them. Because as human beings, there is always love somewhere deep down. Love brought you to the altar. That love is there. But when we're distracted by the world, being attracted to another individual in the world, or things start to happen and we lose contact with our spouse, we're no longer growing together, we're criticizing one another. You know, we're human beings and things happen. But we want to talk to that baby, that fetus, and we want to ensure that child that they are loved, that anything happening is not their fault. And if there are other siblings, that their siblings love them too. And then we go into the next stage of development, which is infancy and childhood. And this has to do with the toddler years, when children are learning to walk, crawl, finding their way around their environment, being in the middle and feeling tension going on in the home. It is extremely important to separate children from the situation. If your spouse is acting out, take the children into another room. Stay in that room. Stay in that room with them and just say, Mom, Dad is going out to talk to Mom or Dad, whatever the situation might be. Let the eldest, whoever the eldest is, if possible, just sit with the children, read with the children. Go outside with your spouse. Scream and yell outside, but don't do it in the house. Don't do it in front of the children. If it's a situation where there's violence involved, you call 911 immediately. Do not hesitate. And keep your children separate and away from the situation. If you're in a situation where you can go back out to the room with your spouse, just say, I want to hear what you have to say. Please do not yell. If you yell, I will walk away. I will not listen. Do not be afraid to speak, but speak calmly, gently. Do not yell. Do not scream. Because when you shift your communications, you shift the other person. Sometimes we're dealing with an individual that may have mental health issues. We might have an individual that comes from a family of a lot of abuse, violence, a line of divorce, if you will, separations, a line of alienation. And, sometimes that's very hard to deal with. But when you are beginning to see these things occurring in your world, get professional help. Don't wait till they escalate. And if they do escalate, you call 911. When you are, hopefully that situation of communication will end. Whatever needs to be said is said. Go back to your children. Sit with your children and tell your children, your father and I love you. If they argue with you or go against what you're saying, say, I understand. I understand you all have your own feelings. Acknowledge that. But your mom, your dad, they do, underneath their anger, underneath their pain, they do love you. And tell your children, adults sometimes do not agree. Adults sometimes very nicely, but that is not right. And you tell your children, I love you, and I want you to all feel that you can come to me and talk to me about your feelings at any time. Once the situation calms, you want to take each child separately. We talked about being with child and talking to that child, gently rubbing the stomach, soothing and talking to that baby. And then your toddler, they're not going to understand, but they can feel what you're saying. You talk to them and you tell them they are loved, you hold them, and you tell them everything is going to be all right. Encourage them and tell them that it is okay for them to love their mother, their father, whomever the parent is that is walking away. We don't ever want to talk badly against them. We can say things like, your dad, your mom is hurting. They cannot help the way they're acting. We must forgive them and love them anyway. And when we go into early childhood, which is the age of 2 to 6, we're dealing with language. Our children are learning to communicate. They're learning words. They're learning phrases. They're learning sentences. They're also learning to understand how mom and dad feel about one another. So it's extremely important when you're speaking with each child that you are addressing from their age level. So you address the age level of 2 to 6 by saying to them, Daddy's not feeling good today, Mommy's not feeling good today, we both still love you. But the house is going to change. You're not going to see Mommy. You're not going to see Daddy for a little while. Mommy, Daddy, they're going to go to a different place to try to figure out why they're sad. We're going to give them their space, and we're still going to love them and pray for them. Children that are in their middle childhood, this is the primary school years of 6 to 11 years. This is the time of their development when they are questioning their identity, are seeking answers to life. They're not really focusing on what mom and dad are doing, but they are distracted if it is not healthy and if it is not loving and positive. So from the age of 6 to 11, they're more concerned with, how am I doing, mom and dad? I need praise. Teach me how to do X, Y, Z. How did I do? How are my grades? They are seeking personal recognition, personal praise. They're learning how to become good people, so someday they will attribute goodness in the world and pick good spouses that will be good to them and will not hurt them in any way. Then we look at ages from adolescence, 12 to 18. This has a lot of implications of growth. This has a lot of growth of sexuality, physical, and spiritual. This age group is all about abstract ideas. So children in this age group, if parents are going through a divorce, children between 12 and 18, they need to talk to each one individually to really pay attention to how they're growing physically. Ask them how they feel about their growth. Ask them how they feel sexually about who they are. And encourage them, encourage and support their identity that God created them to be. Because any other way, children get very confused and their relationships become even more stifling than not. So when we're looking at the ages 12 to 18, we're looking at children in their abstract minds. They're trying to understand love, they're trying to understand fear, and they're trying to understand their own thoughts. This age group, you want to encourage them to talk about how they feel. And always, parents, even if it's 5 minutes for each child, stop and ask each one individually, how was your day? How do you feel? What was your day like? Find out what they're feeling. Find out what they're thinking. Very important. Keep a journal. Take notes. You may need it one day. Hopefully you won't need it for any legal reasons, but it is important to document. And then we have our early adulthood. Parents divorce when their children are between 20 and 40. I've seen that as well. Children have isolated and alienated their parents. There are many, many different levels of emotion and response, but there are 3 very significant domains that affect all of us from the moment of conception to all through our years of life. And that is our physical, our cognitive, and our psychosocial challenges. So, Michelle, I'm going to stop here for now. There is more. We're going to get into the alienation, parents, rules, household rules, chores. We're going to get into those kinds of things that support helping our children and ourselves get through the divorce cycle. So for now, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Oh, woo, that was so great. Dr. Lorraine, I tell you, I never want to jump in when you're speaking because the information is so good, and I have my pen and paper out. I'm over here taking notes when you're talking because you are giving such great information that will really help us along the way. It just really brings insight to the different things that are happening with our children and how they go through the process as well when there is divorce. I love that you talked about the communication between the parent and the child, how to move them to another room. Because sometimes, because we know we talk a lot about domestic violence, that's pretty much the platform that we have here. So we understand that sometimes there could be some conflict going on. There can be some yelling and screaming and fighting and carrying on. But because the way you said to remove the children, take them to another room, have those conversations with them, I love that because I don't think that there's enough of that going on when there's divorce and where there's separation and things like that. It's the adults are moving in a way where they don't take the time out to really have those conversations with the children. And so thank you so much for saying that part.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm getting just a little bit of feedback from you, so I'm not quite sure if you, because sometimes we lost you a little bit when you were talking. So I just want you to just to know that, because we want to make sure we hear every single thing that you have to say. This information is amazing. But I also love that you were saying the different stages, and even the mother who is with child, she's pregnant now, and she's going through a lot of emotional things going on, and the baby can feel that. That is the truest statement that we have had here tonight, because I know that I can't remember when I was in the womb, but I know that I was born into a situation that was very toxic and very, and it was a lot going on. And it really began to shape who I became. And so it's a beautiful thing that you say, talk to your belly, rub, talk to that baby, talk to the fetus, let them know that, we love you. Even though there are a lot of things going on right now, we love you, because that baby can feel and will, go through different stages once they're born. So thank you again for bringing that to the light as well.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me?
And before
okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I sure
Before
can.
we go into the alienation segment, I do want to share that if any of you listening hear of anyone going through difficulties with divorce, there is a program that I taught in my practice for many, many years, and that program helped couples present a calmer front. They were able to discuss and work through things more calmly, and that reduced the levels and effects of trauma tremendously. So if anyone out there should need any of that support, you can feel free to call me. You can email me. That'll be given to you at the end of the show. So, Michelle, whenever you're ready, I'm going to go into the alienation segment because that is really important.
That is very important. And again, and the reason why I even brought this up and wanted Dr. Lorraine and I to discuss this was because there was a time when I had several fathers come to me who were dealing with domestic violence, and they were the ones who were being alienated from their children. They actually wanted to be around their children. They actually wanted to love on their children. Things were not working out with the two spouses, but they were great dads who wanted to be in their children's lives, and it was taken away from them because of different lies and different things that were going on. So before I turn it over to Dr. Lorraine, I want to just give a definition. And parent alienation is a set of strategies that a parent uses to foster a child's rejection of the other parent. And we know she's already talked about the fact that there is parent alienation syndrome. And in that develops in the children, they come to hate, they come to fear, they come to reject that targeted parent as being someone who's unworthy of having a relationship with them. So that's why I wanted to talk about this, because that is abuse. And it is emotional abuse for the child. And so I wanted us to really go into deep into that. And Dr. Lorraine, I know you have just amazing information on that. And we're just going to dive into it because it's something that really needs to be discussed. We really need to, ladies, if this is you, or if it is a family member, don't do that. Do not keep these children away from their fathers if he isn't a willing participant and wants to be in their lives. Just because you cannot deal with him right now. And I have to say that because I've seen it happen too many times. Let these babies be with their dads. And if it's the other way around, Dad, and you're listening to us, let these babies be with their mothers. Children need both parents. I can't stress that enough.
They do.
And just because
and there are boundaries too.
That's right. So let's go, Dr. Lorraine. Hit us with that great info that you have.
Okay. Parent alienation. First of all, and Michelle is correct about her definition, it is a set of strategies a parent may use to foster rejection against the other parent by the children. So here's the thing. The parents are struggling, okay, reasonably they're struggling, and the children are confused and struggling reasonably, yes, all right. The mother or the father, either way, one of the parents does not want them to see the children. But why? Why do they want to keep them? Is it because they have a lot of pride and they're just angry because they're leaving? Or is there something going on? So here's the thing. I want to talk about this alienation and where it's coming from. Whenever alienation, first of all, is a reaction of anger and deep, deep emotional pain that propels alienation. And remember when I said in the beginning how emotions, there's a different platform of emotions. It's a cycle of various emotions that it's feeding one another, the anger, the pain, the disgust, the humiliation, the rejection. There's a whole betrayal. I mean, there is a whole list of emotionalities, and they're all running in circles in our mind, okay? So when you've got a lot of things moving in your mind, it is so hard to know the right way to proceed with whatever it is. So now with alienation, I have to go back to the stages of life. Whatever the spouses, each spouse has had a childhood of lessons. What were those lessons? What did they learn? What did they see growing up? Did they see fighting? Did they see arguing? Were they taught? Did they see their parents argue together and one walks out the door, runs away, isolates, alienates? Is that what they saw? Is that what they learned? Is that why they're doing it in their marriage through this divorce process? The other parent, what was the childhood for that parent? Were they taught aspects of love? Were they taught how to give and receive? Were they taught respect? Were they taught how to speak to one another? Were they taught appropriate communications and behaviors? So a lot of this has a lot to do with how we react when moving through a divorce process. And again, the knowledge of a divorce. For some people, it's a total shock. I thought my husband loved me. I thought my wife loved me. I cannot believe it. She's not who I thought she was. He's not who I thought he was. Unfortunately, life throws us curves. It disrupts our mind, our heart, our spirit. We are all human beings. I am so sorry for anyone out there that has ever experienced divorce and trauma. My heart goes out to you. I've treated the children. I have seen what goes on. And I will tell you that there is such a thing as alienation syndrome. There is literally a clinical diagnosis for that. And that is for individuals that truly cannot handle the situation. Again, when you are struck with indifferences in your marriage, don't let it escalate. Address it. If your spouse doesn't want to address it, go to a therapist and try your best to get your spouse to come with you. If they don't want to come with you, pray for them. Continue to be respectful. If you're getting into a level of abuse or violence, it's 911. 911 every time. They hit you once, 911, get it on the books and get a copy of it. Whether it's the wife hitting the man or the man hitting the woman, regardless. Abuse is abuse. Alienation is alienation. But alienation, there's different levels to that. You know, it can be, I've seen where husbands tell me in counseling, well, I had to walk out the door, Dr. Lorraine. I just couldn't handle it. She's yelling and screaming. I just couldn't handle it. She would not calm down. Okay, you walk out the door. You take a long walk. If you're angry, do not get behind the wheel. But if you're just, and if you're sad, whatever your emotions are, don't get behind the wheel. Just take a walk. Take a walk, clear your head, and pray. Even if all you're saying is, God help me, God help me, God help me. At least you're calling out. Take a couple deep breaths and just allow yourself to get your place of calm. When you return, if that person is still out of order, you need to still speak calm and soft. I will not speak to you if you're going to continue to scream and yell. I hear you. I care what you have to say, but not if you're going to scream it and yell. And you know, we all have a responsibility in every relationship that we're in. So it's very important. Whether we're the bad guy or not, doesn't matter. It's not about being good or bad, but we need to go within ourselves and ask ourselves honestly and privately, did I do something? Is there something I did and I'm not aware of? And ask your spouse, is there something I did? I'll tell you now, I've seen it where men have said and women have said, my husband, my wife, they're the most precious thing in the world. I love them dearly, but I'm not in love, and I do want out. I don't want to be married anymore. I've also heard spouses say, I can't forgive my spouse because they were with someone else. I've heard that too. The anger, the pain, divorce is not a nice thing. So we do want to try to avoid it any way we possibly can. Go to a pastor, go to a rabbi, find someone you can confide in. Find someone you can open your heart to and really talk to. Find someone you can lean on. Take them with you to your therapist. Have they witnessed the situation? Take them with you. But when you're dealing with children are very much affected with the alienation. And what do you do about alienation? When it's strictly emotions, you need the counseling, but there's also child support. When one other of the parent, I've seen where the wife makes all the money, and I've seen the dad at home raising the kids, and the mother walks out, and she won't pay support. I've seen it both ways. And that is not fair to the child. That's because you're angry, that's because you're upset, and that's because you're trying to prepare for another life with someone else. But that life with someone else will not work if you do not settle peacefully and lovingly the life you're in. I guarantee it. I have seen so many divorces with second marriages. It's worse than first marriages. It is really important to really heal yourself and get to a place of common ground with your partner. Say, listen, you don't want me, you don't want me. You don't love me, you don't love me. But you know something? God sees. And if you are truly, truly the victim in your situation, God is going to send you somebody so good, but not until you forgive and you heal within yourself. And there's a way of doing that. There are steps and there's protocols for that. As far as the alienation and children and trauma, it has been said and shown in clinical writing that children experience devastating trauma through divorce. And one of the reasons why they have so much trauma is because they're watching what the parents are going through. You want to be honest with your children, but you want to be age appropriate. You want to make sure that your words are very simple to their age. And you want to always make sure you provide the following. You want to provide safety. Safety meaning you have ground rules for safety. Your children need to feel safe. They need to feel that they are safe with you, the parent that is staying with them. But we never want to talk against the other parent. And as long as that parent has always been healthy with the child, they should be allowed to see the child. But I would definitely, for divorce, you get a therapist, you get an attorney, and you make sure that things are outlined so that you are both following the same rules for the sake of the children. You want to make sure that the children are safe, and this is what I mean by safety. When the parent is in the shower and someone knocks on the door, the children do not answer. That is an example of safety. You sit with your children, you give them the house rules. You do not answer the phone. You let me answer the phone always, especially in a divorce cycle. I don't care how old the child is. The parent answers the phone and then delegates the call to whomever the call is for. Safety, those children do not go anywhere alone. They have you if they're of teen years and they want to be with their friends. You want them to be around other friends who are safe, and their parents have safe rules and healthy rules for them as well. You don't want your children in a home where the children don't have to follow rules and can do whatever they want to do, because that's even more confusing to your adult child. And if they really insist on spending time with this particular adult, bring them to your house. Have the kids come to your house. Everybody to your house. Give them their space. Let them have a room where they can hang out. Go in another room, watch TV with the other children. Let them have their space and their time with their adult friends. Also, we want to make sure there's healthy...
Dr. Lorraine.
Yes.
Okay. Listen, I can't stand that I have to do this, but we're coming down to the last 5 minutes. And I just want us to be able to make...
All right.
So let me... So much.
Let me do this. Anyone that would like more information that we didn't get to cover today, because there are rules and boundaries that are helpful, email me. My email is Jesus, JESUS, is calling, CALLING, the number 40 @yahoo.com. Send me an email.
Right.
My phone number direct. My direct number 352-272-2212. And I must say, there's someone that's been trying to call me, and I don't know if it's from the show or not, but their voicemail is so muffled, I can't even tell who they are. I don't know the name or the number. So please be sure that your system is clear. Please be sure that your mouth is not on the mic when you're speaking, because that will muffle. And if I don't get back to you in 24 to 48 hours, please keep calling or send me an email. Thank you, and God bless, and thank you, Michelle.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Oh, this was amazing. I didn't know where to jump in at, because I was like, this information is so great. We need it.
There's a lot. There really is a lot more. There's a lot. So they are welcome to call me and email me.
Yeah. So make sure you email her. If you cannot get through to Dr. Lorraine, you can always email me at mickeyshell67@gmail.com. That's M as in Mary, IKKI, S as in Sam, HELL 67@gmail.com, and I will make sure that she gets all of the questions that you all have, and I'll make sure she gets all of your information to be able to get back to you. Thank you so much, Dr. Lorraine, for being here with us, always enlightening us, encouraging us, inspiring us and helping us to navigate through the trauma that has happened in our lives. So I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you too, Michelle. You do a wonderful job, and I want to thank the audience. I really want to thank you. Could you call out very quickly, start with the number 1? I'd like to know how many people are listening. Just somebody say 1, somebody say 2, and keep going.
No, they're not going to be able to do that because we didn't have the mics on. We just need them to ask us.
No worries.
It gets a little, sometimes it gets a little, but that's okay. We got them.
That's okay,
I'll
Michelle.
be able to let you
That's
know.
all right.
Awesome. Really quick, because we're getting ready to get up out of here. We only have less than a minute. Listen, final thoughts. Always, we always say be kind to one another. Make sure that you be kind to yourself. Don't forget that you are no longer a victim. You are more than a survivor. You are a thriver. I love you all, my thrivers. We're going to go ahead and get up out of here. You guys are amazing. Have a great, love you.
Goodbye.
God bless. Bye-bye. God bless you.
Pick your head up. Get up. It's only right. Take back your life. Pick your head up. Get up. Take back your life. And come and talk to me. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Speak your peace. Come